This is the third and final video for topic 3. We've specified a reform that eliminates the lifestyle relief beginning in 2022. And in the second video, we looked at some of the aggregate revenue effects over the 5-year period of that reform. In this video, we're going to focus on the distributional effects in the last year that we're simulating, which is 2025. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce some new options to get the model to write some output that will allow us to graph some really interesting cross-sectional graphs. We're going to look at effective tax rates across the income distribution. And we're also going to look across the income distribution in the percentage change in after-tax income. So this is full income minus the personal income tax liability. So it turns out that we were also scheduled to look at the standard table output and look at the decile, the income decile information. We got a little ahead of ourselves in the prior video, and we looked at that. So we're going to skip over that here in this third video. So let's go to the Anaconda prompt. This is the way it was, left over from before. We're going to clear the screen to tidy things up. Let's just see what kind of set of files we have here. It's quite a few. This is why we highly recommend that you get into the habit of creating a new directory for each project that you do, because the number of files that you can generate in just one afternoon is pretty substantial. And if they're all jumbled together in a single directory, it's going to be hopeless to figure out which files go with which tax analysis project. So it's just much better to have a different directory for each one of your projects. And we're adapting that style here in the training videos by creating a different directory, working directory, for each of our topics. Okay, so what we had done before was this run. This was to get our time series tax information. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. We're going to just, for the cross-sectional stuff, we're just going to look at the last year, 2025, same reform. So no need to specify multiple years because we're only going to do this for 2025. We're still want to ignore the dump output. And we're going to look at the effective tax rate output. This is telling the model that we want these cross-sectional files, and ATI stands for after-tax income. So if we run this, we should just get results for 2025. Let's see what happens. Now take a look. We got the table output as before. The slide said we were going to look at the decile information, but we already did that for 2022, I guess it was. You can look at it here. But here's the key. We've got these extra output files that we're going to use in the same way we used the time series output before. We're going to use the MYI-Plot command. And let's look at the effective tax rate output. What this does, this MYI plot command, is converts the table, which you can look at if you want, into a graph. And remember, for the reasons I described before, I'm generating a PDF file, okay? And there's the name of the file that has the PDF in it. And I guess on Windows, if you were at this stage of the game, you would somehow start Adobe Acrobat or the Windows Reader program. I'm not sure exactly how to do that on Windows, but here on a Mac, you can simply use what's called the open command. And here we go. So let's make this a little bigger. Get it in our view here. And okay. So you can see that this is a little bit like the time series graph, is that we're seeing effective tax rates for both current law and under the reform. So the effective tax rates are expressed over here on the y-axis as a percent of full income. And as you can see, there's not much difference. The amount, the tax liability, the effective tax rate is only slightly higher under the reform. So what are we looking at here? What are all these dots? Well, these are current law, pre-reform, full income percentiles. In other words, the tables grouped people the same way, but just divided them into 10 groups. What we've got here in the graph is the same concept, except we're dividing them into 100 groups so that we can see a finer distributional analysis than what we could see in the table output. So we'll minimize that for the moment. We might want to come back and look at that. Meanwhile, we're going to go back and we're going to use the file that had the after-tax percentage change in after-tax income, okay? In the United States, quite a few very experienced senior tax analysts take the position that this is the single best measure of how a reform affects different groups of people. So let's see what we've got here. This is highly touted. So I've created a PDF file and we're going to look at it here. Let me make it a little bigger. It's the same idea. We have it's the same x-axis. We've got the same 100 groups. And what do we have over here on the y-axis? It says reform-induced percentage change in after-tax income. So what's after-tax income? It's your full income before any tax minus your personal income tax liability. So there's no current law and reform here because this actually uses results from both current law and reform. For each person, you're figuring out the percentage change in their after-tax income that's caused by the reform. So this is what we expect to see. After-tax income is going down because the personal income tax liability is going up. Why is the personal income tax liability going up? Because you can't take a lifestyle relief amount beginning in 2022. This is for 2025. So what's interesting to see, though, is that people here in the low incomes are affected hardly at all. The numbers here are very small. This is zero, no change. The people at the bottom percentiles have no tax liability. So losing the chance to do lifestyle deduction has no effect on their liability because they either don't have any lifestyle expenses, or more to the point, they don't have a tax liability to reduce. Remember, this is not a refundable credit, it's a deduction against chargeable income that reduces your, I meant to say against your aggregate income that reduces your chargeable income. So this is in percentage terms. So this is teeny. Even the people that are affected by the most are only losing 1/3 of 1% of their after-tax income because of this reform. But what it does show is what you'd expect. People that lose a deduction in the higher tax brackets, it raises their taxable income. It raises people's taxable income the same amount, but because you're in a higher tax bracket, your tax liability goes up more. So these people are losing the most. And so you can look at this and think about why different groups are in different places. And it's a useful graph to help you understand what the implications of a reform are for different groups of people at high, middle, and low incomes. So that's it for topic 3.